"Aye," said Ridmark. "I have never encountered the Lupervirii before," said Carlact. "I saw a dead one when I was a child, slain by the warriors of my village, but I've never seen a living one." "I'm not surprised," said Ridmark. "They range across the southern parts of the wilder land. The Dark Elves and the Mordor exterminated those in the north." He stepped around a root. "The Lupervirii think differently than humans and orcs and dwarves and halflings." "How so?" said Carlact. "Humans and the other kindreds have rational minds and animal passions," said Ridmark. "A man can give in to his savage side and kill, or he can follow his rational mind and refrain. The beastmen have rational minds, but their animal passions are far stronger. They live like beasts and disdain the use of tools and weapons as crutches for the weak. If we must fight, it will be like fighting a pack of hungry wolves." "Show no fear," said Carlact, "and strike down the biggest male." "Precisely," said Ridmark. They kept walking and a mile later came to the ford. By the time the River Moradel flowed past the High King's stronghold of Tarlion and entered the sea, it was almost a mile wide. Here it was 60 yards across, and no more than 20 feet deep. A ragged ford cut across the river to the western bank, a few damp white stones jutting from the water. "An odd place for a ford," said Carlact. "It isn't natural," said Ridmark. "In ancient days, Dark Elven strongholds stood to the west of here. The Dark Elves built a bridge to permit their slave soldiers to come and go more easily. The bridge fell into the river, and the ford built up around its wreckage." Carlact frowned. "How do you know this?" "One of the High Elves told me," said Ridmark. Carlact looked at Ridmark's grey elven cloak and grunted. "Oh." "Over the ford," said Ridmark. "Stay watchful." He walked into the ford, Carlact following, the water splashing around his boots. The river's current was strong, and from time to time Ridmark drove his staff into the silt to catch his balance. Carlact hopped from stone to stone, boots scraping against the wet rock. Ridmark kept his eyes on the far bank. If anyone wanted to attack, now was an excellent time to do it. But no one stirred on the western side. Ridmark climbed onto the western bank, Carlact a few steps behind. "Where now?" said Carlact. "There's a human village a half-day from here," said Ridmark. "A place called Aranaeus. We'll head there and purchase supplies, and continue toward Moeller." "A human village? Are we not outside the boundaries of the High King's realm?" said Carlact. "We are," said Ridmark, "but there are settlements of humans scattered outside the boundaries of Andamheim. Men who wish to live away from the High King's authority for whatever reason, and struck out on their own. A bold way to live, but dangerous. They are outside of the High King's protection, away from the sword-bearers and the magistri, and have no way to defend themselves from creatures of dark magic." "Are the men of Aranaeus dangerous?" said Carlact. "Worshippers of the Mordor or the orcish blood gods?" He scowled, his tusks making his green face look fierce and bestial. "Perhaps," said Ridmark. "I passed through Aranaeus 9 years ago when I first travelled toward Moeller. The villagers were baptized sons of the church, though fearful and clannish, as one might expect of a lone village surrounded by the ruins of the Dark Elves. If they are hostile, we shall continue on, but some supplies will be welcome." "And a warm meal and a bed," said Carlact. "Aye," said Ridmark. "If we make haste, we can reach Aranaeus by nightfall. Let us—" The trees rustled and Ridmark stepped back. Carlact growled and drew his greatsword, the blue dark elven steel flashing in the sunlight. Ridmark swept his eyes back and forth over the trunks, watching for any signs of